Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really digging into quite an unconventional perspective on money, education, wealth.
Yeah, it feels like a strange time, economically speaking.
It really does. And if you're, say, a parent or maybe a homeowner, you've probably felt some of that weirdness. We want to explore what one particular viewpoint suggests it all means.
Exactly. And our source material today is some fascinating interview excerpts with Robert Kiyosaki.
Right, from the YouTube channel Dad Saves America.
That's the one. So our mission really is to pull out Kiyosaki's core ideas on financial literacy, his, let's say, different take on building wealth, and his pretty sharp critique of traditional schooling.
It's definitely a unique lens for looking at today's complex financial world.
Absolutely. A challenging one sometimes.
Okay, let's jump right in. Kiyosaki's foundation seems to be this critique of schools lacking financial education. He has this really provocative line.
Oh, I know the one.
He says, if there's no financial education in our school systems, then the people running our government are idiots. I mean, that's quite a statement.
It is. And it's not just, a throwaway line. He uses it to set up his whole argument that the system isn't just accidentally failing us financially.
He thinks it's deliberate.
That's the implication. He contrasts his poor dad, PhD, head of education, but poor as a church mouse, as he says, with his rich dad.
The one with no formal education.
Exactly. And Kiyosaki makes the point, my banker has never asked me for my report card yet. His core belief seems to be that academics often know jack about money. They just don't get financial statements.
And he connects this education gap to a big historical change, doesn't he? Something impacting boomers especially.
Yeah, the shift away from pensions. He points out his generation was the first one, really, without that safety net of a defined benefit pension plan.
Before 1974, people expected a pension for life, like his dad's generation had.
Right. Then came the 401ks, the IRAs.
Yeah.
And Kiyosaki's take is, this leaves boomers hanging out there on a string right now.
So how does that shift make his point about financial literacy, or the lack of it, even stronger?
Well, it's crucial because, and this is another pretty controversial claim he makes.
What?
He says schools, taught by Marxists, in his view, intentionally avoid teaching these key financial concepts.
Wow, okay. So needing self-funded retirement makes literacy vital, but he thinks the system actively prevents it.
That's his argument. And he boils it down, saying there are just three basic parts to understand: the income statement, the balance sheet, and the statement of cash flow. Things he believes anyone could learn.
Okay, so if the foundation is this broken educational system, he then gets into the nature of money itself. And that's radical, too.
Totally radical. He pinpoints 1971, Nixon taking the dollar off gold.
And says, from that point on, the U.S. dollar became debt. What does that even mean for how the economy works?
Well, the big implication, according to him, is that the economy needs borrowing to survive. It collapses if we stop.
So money isn't earned by working, primarily.
Not anymore, he argues. He says money is created by borrowing money. And he points to current events like, as of 2024, the U.S. printing $1 trillion every 90 days just to keep things afloat.
Which leads him to push back hard against that whole live debt-free idea, the Dave Ramsey approach.
Exactly. Kiyosaki says point blank, if we all live debt-free, the economy tanks. It's completely counterintuitive to what most of us hear.
Yeah, it really is. How does he back that up?
He uses the 2008 crisis as a prime example. He describes banks back then borrowing money and then packaging debt as an asset.
Those infamous derivatives.
Right. Bundling up mortgages, selling them off. He even brings up Warren Buffett's term for them, weapons of mass financial destruction.
Okay, so that's the problem he saw. But what did he do during that crash when everyone else was running for cover?
Well, this is classic Kiyosaki. He says he borrowed $300 million.
He borrowed money during the crash.
Yep, borrowed big, and used it to buy the best real estate in the world for pennies on a dollar. It sounds crazy, incredibly risky.
It does. How does he explain that?
It comes back to his philosophy. All coins have three sides: heads, tails, and the edge. He's always talking about seeing the invisible, the other side.
The edge.
The edge. For him, it means understanding how to use debt strategically, not just be burdened by it, leveraging it to get assets.
Yeah.
That's the edge most people don't see, he thinks.
That idea of the edge flows right into maybe his most famous concept from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? The difference between assets and liabilities.
Absolutely central.
Yeah.
And his definitions are really simple, very direct.
Okay, what are they?
He says an asset puts money in your pocket whether you work or not. Simple. And a liability
Takes money out.
is taking money from your pocket. It's all about cash flow direction. That's the key.
Which brings us to the point that really trips people up, the one everyone argues about.
Let me guess. Your house.
Yeah, his statement. Your house is not an asset. That's tough for homeowners to hear.
It is tough.
Yeah.
But his logic, from his cash flow perspective, is clear. A house constantly takes money out.
Mortgage, taxes, insurance, repairs.
Exactly. It's draining your pocket, not filling it. So by his definition, it's a liability. It completely cuts against the grain of, the American dream idea that your home is your biggest asset.
So if the house isn't the asset, how does he actually build wealth then? What's he doing instead?
He focuses on creating assets, things that generate income.
Like what?
Building businesses, assembling portfolios of rental properties. He even mentions buying things like lithium fields for batteries. It's about actively constructing income streams.
And his real estate strategy is pretty specific too.
Very specific. He talks about owning, I think it's 1,600 rental units. The tenants pay rent. That's income in his pocket.
And the debt part.
He says because his properties are 100% debt, he leverages tax laws, so he pays no taxes. It's an example of how he believes the rich use the system differently.
And what about traditional investments? 401ks, IRAs?
He calls them garbage.
Yeah.
And uses the rather harsh term peasants to describe who he thinks they're for.
Peasants. Wow. Why so dismissive?
Because in his view, they take money from your pocket and ultimately give it to the capitalists, the system owners. They don't generate cash flow for you in the way he values.
Okay, let's zoom out a bit. He's not just talking personal finance. He has these bigger worries, right, about the whole economy.
Oh, yeah. He talks about a pending financial catastrophe. A big part of it is demographics.
What about demographics?
Just the sheer imbalance globally. So few workers, young people for so many old people. He uses Japan as an example of where this is headed.
And what's the result of that imbalance, in his view?
He thinks the economy is fragile, that it's going bankrupt slowly and then fast. He also sees a historical link.
Which is?
He claims every time they printed money, there's been war.
Yeah.
And he says two things always happen with money printing. The rich get richer, poor get poorer.
And he connects that printing, like the trillion every 90 days.
Directly to rising costs and even homelessness. A pretty grim outlook he taints based on current policies.
It feels very relevant right now, especially with the housing market. 2024, 2025, prices are high, interest rates are high, inflation.
Yeah, it's tough. He mentions people earning less than $100,000 a year are really struggling to buy a house. It feels like a trap for a lot of people.
So given all this potential turmoil, what does he say about how people should navigate it? It's not just about numbers, is it?
No, he emphasizes emotional intelligence, EQ. He sees it as one of 4 key intelligences: mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional.
And how does EQ relate to finance?
He criticizes schools again here, says they punish mistakes, making people terrified of making mistakes.
Which stops them from taking calculated risks or learning from financial failures.
Exactly. He contrasts that with hands-on learning, even mentioning the Montessori idea. What the hand does the mind remembers. He thinks purely academic learning leaves you unprepared for the real world of money, which requires emotional resilience.
Okay, so emotionally, be prepared to make mistakes and learn. What about strategy? What should people actually do?
His main advice is simple. Study. You need to educate yourself financially.
And avoid. What did he call them? Village idiots.
Yeah, he warns against village idiots who jump in at the top of the market because of FOMO, fear of missing out.
He sees that happening now.
He mentions Bitcoin, the stock market, as places where people might be buying high out of FOMO. He thinks the real chances come when markets crash.
So wait for the crash.
Or at least be prepared for it and understand how to act when it happens. That's where the study comes in.
And for young people starting out?
His big advice is seek your teachers. Find mentors, find good information. He sees YouTube, for example, as offering access to millions of teachers.
But be careful.
Definitely. He warns against the get-rich-quick stuff. His rule of thumb: if it's too good to be true, it's probably fake. Look for real knowledge, not just hype.
It seems like there are deeper values under all this, too. He talks about academia and the rich.
Yeah, he perceives this resentment in academia towards the rich. He thinks it boils down to different core values. He contrasts academics, nerds, as he used to call them, with capitalists. Just different priorities, different ways of seeing the world.
And his own background seems key here, growing up in Hawaii.
Right, caught between a rich kid's school and a union school. That difference sparked his big question as a kid. Why are some people rich and others poor?
And then having the two dads, his biological poor dad and his mentor rich dad,
gave him those two totally opposing viewpoints on money side by side. That shaped everything for him.
He also brings in leadership lessons from his military time.
Yeah, from King's Point. He defines leadership simply as the ability to unite and focus a group on a clear mission, getting people aligned on a goal.
That seems very practical.
And he connects it to his Vietnam experience, too. A tough experience, obviously.
What does he say about that?
He talks about coming home being spit on, called baby killers.
Yeah.
But his commanding officer taught them something profound.
Which was?
That they fought for the right for them to do that to us. Defending freedom of expression, even when it's directed against you. It shows a real commitment to principle, to the mission.
And he seems very focused on young men now, mentioning the fatherlessness crisis.
Yeah, he cites that statistic, 1 in 4 kids growing up without a father. It clearly motivates him. And that advice, seek your teachers.
Where did that come from?
He says it came from Sunday school, learning about the wise men. Why were they wise? Because they sought the best teacher. It connects his personal mission back to finding guidance.
It's interesting how his own path reflects that rejection of traditional routes. Having to self-publish Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Absolutely. Rejected by publishers, academics, he calls them again, who didn't get his ideas.
And then it became this global phenomenon.
Through Amway, through Oprah, completely outside the usual channels. And he's still on that mission, saying he wants to start a network marketing system to teach capitalism throughout the world. Still teaching, still trying to reach people directly.
Wow. Okay, so listening to all this, it really forces you to question some fundamental beliefs about work, money, assets.
Definitely.
As you, listening, go about your day, maybe mull over these core Kiyosaki ideas. The rich don't work for money, they create assets, they don't save money in the conventional sense. And that big one, your house is not an asset.
These aren't just little tips. It's a whole different way of looking at your financial life.
So the question to leave you with is, what would it actually mean for you to embrace that other side of the coin Kiyosaki talks about?
Yeah, what would change in how you think and act? And following his advice, maybe think about what kind of teachers you might seek out to continue your own deep dive.